All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. Pakistan is in a deep financial crisis. It has got its hopes tied to an IMF program, which at this point of time is nowhere near realization. It is an agreement for the revival of the extended fund facility, which was expected to conclude on the 19th of June. But as certain matters remain unsettled, the deal remains in a bit of a limbo. On the 10th of June, Pakistan's newly elected government presented a 9.52 trillion Pakistani rupee budget for the forthcoming fiscal year. Now, the government is targeting to secure the passage of the budget from the National Assembly on the 27th or the 28th of June, and for that, it has to reach an agreement with the IMF first, so that the agreed measures can be protected in the budget. However, reports claim that the IMF still has expressed some serious reservations over the $9.5 trillion expenditure for the next fiscal year. According to the IMF estimates, the budget revenue measures are also insufficient to deliver slightly over 7 trillion rupee target to be legally implemented with effect from the 1st of July, which of course is the new financial year in Pakistan. The budget has to be passed by the parliament by the 28th of June. Meanwhile, as the citizens are at the receiving end of the soaring inflation, Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has staged nationwide protests against the rising inflation. And this was the scene on Sunday evening, where thousands of people descended onto the streets in different cities across Pakistan, including in Islamabad, to rally against the high prices and also against the policies of the current government. The protest was called for by the former Prime Minister Imran Khan, and similar protests were also held in other cities like Karachi. A large number of police officials were also deployed. Imran Khan has urged the public to stage only peaceful demonstrations against what he has called the PMLN-led government that is incapable of handling the economy of Pakistan. Now, in the week just went by, the inflation in Pakistan was said to be about 3.38% in comparison with the previous week. Now, in a matter of weeks, the Shehbaz Sharif government has lifted all subsidies from petroleum products. An energy crisis has also led to a closure of markets early in certain cities such as Karachi. In a recorded video message, Imran Khan has warned that inflation will soar even higher in the days to come if the nation kept sitting idly. Now, Imran Khan served as the Prime Minister for well over 3.5 years until he was ousted by a no-confidence vote in the Parliament in the month of April. And since then, Imran Khan has held rallies with thousands of people across the country. In his latest speech, Imran Khan has said that he has asked the people in the country to take to the streets against inflation for their own good. It also warned that more price hikes and inflation are in the offing.
जो करप्ट लोग हैं, जो जिनकी हमें सारी तारीख पता है, बाहर बैठे हुए इनके लीडर्स, पैसे बाहर बैठे हुए हैं, वहां से बैठ के इस मुल्क को कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं, और जिधर इनके पैसे पड़े हुए हैं वो उन मुल्कों से ही कंट्रोल हो रहे हैं। इस मुल्क की ना इन्होंने आज़ादी रहने दी है, ना इन्होंने इदारे चलने देने हैं, ना इन्होंने जमहूरियत चलने देनी है। इन्होंने जितनी देर ये आएंगे इस मुल्क को मजीद और नुकसान पहुंचाएंगे, सिर्फ अपने आप को ऊपर मुसल्लत करने के लिए।
Meanwhile, Imran Khan supporters at the protests decried the rise in the price of commodities in comparison to that in the previous government. Many are even ready to vote and bring Imran Khan back to power, and many people, remember, are from his rallies and therefore are quite naturally his supporters.
जी बिल्कुल, प्राइसेस बहुत ज़्यादा हो गई है, पेट्रोल की कीमतें बहुत ज़्यादा होगी, इन्होंने महंगाई बहुत ज़्यादा कर दी है। तो खान साहब के टाइम पे ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं था, बिल्कुल महंगाई नॉर्मल थी, लोड शेडिंग बिल्कुल नहीं थी, लेकिन इन्होंने बहुत ज़्यादा टू मच की। आई विल नेवर एक्सेप्ट दिस गवर्नमेंट, बट हम खान साहब को ला के रहेंगे, हर कीमत पे ला के रहेंगे। हमें ये हुकूमत बिल्कुल नहीं चाहिए, कभी किसी कीमत पे नहीं चाहिए, एब्सोल्युटली नो।
अचानक हमारे मुल्क के ऊपर कब्जा हो गए, हमारे रिसोर्सेज के ऊपर कब्जा हो गए, ये काबिज ग्रुप है और हम इसके खिलाफ खड़े हैं। इंशाल्लाह जब खान साहब हमें कहेंगे हम बाहर निकलेंगे। ऊपर से नलेकों ने आके हमारी महंगाई के मतलब है, जो महंगाई ग्रेजुअली थोड़ी ऊपर जाती है, एकदम से पूरे का पूरा ऊपर ले गए। आमदन लोगों की है नहीं है, तो जाए तो हम जाएंगे।
And also, WION's Anas Manik has been tracking this story very closely for us from Islamabad and has sent us this report. Listen.
A huge number of citizens came out protesting against the rise of inflation on the call of the ousted Prime Minister Imran Khan. Last night across the country, in different parts of the country, we saw mammoth gatherings being held. They were certainly not organic, they were PTI led. PTI local leadership were cheering these protests, were heading these protests, and they called for a reduction in inflation, for the reduction in prices of commodities that have been raised by this new government, what they call or they say is an imported government. While addressing these protesters virtually, Imran Khan has maintained that he will be holding these protests regularly until a free and fair elections are called. He critiqued the government on their ineligibility to counter the menace of inflation. He said that this government has been in power for about 2 months, and that Imran Khan's government had been negotiating with the IMF and rather been in the IMF program for over 2.5 years. And despite of being in the IMF program, they had gone on to give relief to the common man. The takeaway is that his protest call, he's vowed to expand it, and has said that he will not be relenting down until a free and fair elections are called. Anas Malik in Islamabad, Pakistan for WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.